Hello, Nicole here from Nicole's Creations, and today I'm going to show you how to make a rustic summer market bag. This bag works up to approximately 10.5 inches wide by 11.5 inches tall when laid flat, and is perfect for grabbing some goodies at the farmer's market. Now, if you prefer written patterns, this pattern is available free to view on my blog. It's also available as a downloadable ad-free PDF in my shops. In the PDF version, you get directions for 3 sizes of bag. The size we'll make today, plus one larger and one smaller. So I'll be sure to put links to both my blog and shops in the description if you're interested in following along with the written pattern. To make this bag, you're going to need approximately 290 plus yards of number 4 worsted weight yarn. I say plus because it depends on how long you decide to make your strap. So 290 yards is the minimum needed, but if you decide to make a longer strap, you're going to need more yarn. Cotton tends to work best for crocheted bags, so I'm going to be using Dishy from We Crochet. You'll also need a 5mm crochet hook, such as the streamlined metal hooks from Furls Crochet, and I'll be sure to put links for both of these in the description if you want to check those out. You'll also need a measuring tape, a pair of scissors, a stitch marker, and a yarn needle to weave in your ends. So let's jump in. To start the base of the bag, we are going to chain 4, and then slip stitch back into the very first chain to make this circle. Now, if you prefer, you can also do a magic ring here. I just like doing the chain 4 and slip stitching method, but either will work. So then to make round 1, we're going to chain 1 and then half double crochet 10 times into the center of this circle. Okay, and once we have all 10 of our half double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you're going to slip stitch into the first stitch to join. And that's round 1. So then to start round 2, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to put 2 half double crochets in each stitch around. Now, in most of this pattern, the chain 1 does not count as a stitch, so you're going to put your first stitch right here in the same stitch as your chain comes out. So we're going to do 2 half double crochets in each of these stitches. So 1, the second goes right back into that same stitch. So 1, 2, 1, 2, and we're just going to do that all the way around. And now that we're at the end of round 2, we're once again going to slip stitch into the top of that first stitch to join. For round 3, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to put 1 half double crochet in the first stitch, and then 2 half double crochets in the next stitch. And we're going to repeat that all the way around. So 1, and then 2. 1, and then 2. So we're just going to put those last 2 stitches here in the last stitch, and then slip stitch to the top of your first stitch to join. Now, one thing that I'm going to mention here, we haven't really talked about gauge. So with bags, gauge isn't really necessary. Your bag may come out larger or smaller than mine if you don't match my gauge, but that's not as critical as when we make something like a wearable, like a hat or a shirt. But if you want to make one that is approximately the same size as my bag, you're going to want to make sure that your stitches match mine. So here after round 3, I recommend measuring across, and mine comes out to about 2.5 inches. So long as you are on track with that, your bag will come out about the same size as mine. Now, if you don't care about the size, then there's no need to check that. You're fine to continue on as is. But just thought I would mention that if you want to have a bag about similar size, you might want to check your stitches. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to round 4. So for round 4, we're going to chain 1. We're going to put 1 half double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 half double crochet, and then a half double crochet in the next stitch. And then we're going to put 2 half double crochets in the 3rd stitch. So 1, 2. And then we're going to keep doing that around. So 1 half double crochet in one stitch, 1 half double crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 half double crochets in the following stitch. So for this round, we're doing 2 individual half double crochets, and then we do the double. So the increase comes every 3rd stitch in this round, and we're going to do that all the way around. And then once we get to the end of this round, slip stitch to the top of your 1st stitch to join. For round 5, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to put 1 half double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, and then do 2 half double crochets in the stitch after. So 1 half double crochet, 2, 3, and then our double. So in this one, the increase comes every 4th round, or every 4th stitch, sorry. 1, 2, 3, and then a double. And we're just going to do that all the way around. We're going to end this round with 2 half double crochets in that last stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch to the top of the 1st stitch to join. Now we're going to place 1 half double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches, and then we're going to put 2 half double crochets in the next stitch. So we're going to chain 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 half double crochets. 1 and 2. And we're going to repeat that around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then your 2 half double crochets. And on this last stitch, we're going to insert 2 half double crochets. And then we're going to slip stitch to the top of the 1st stitch to join. So for round 7, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to half double crochet into 5 stitches, and then do 2 half double crochets. So if you haven't picked up on the pattern yet, essentially we're adding 1 additional half double crochet before we do the increase stitch on each round. So this round was all increase stitches. Here was 1 before the increase stitch, 2 before the increase stitch, and so on up until now we're at 5 before the increase stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're going to put 2 half double crochets into this next stitch. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the increase stitch. So 2 half double crochets in this stitch. And we're just going to do that all the way around. Okay, so we're going to once again slip stitch to the first stitch to join. And then for round 8, we're going to chain 1. And then just like we're following the same pattern from before, we're going to half double crochet into 6 stitches and then do an increase stitch. So 1 half double crochet, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to do 2 half double crochets. 1 and 2. So we're going to repeat that all the way around. So we're finishing this round with 2 half double crochets in that last stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch to the top of that first stitch to join. And so we are now actually done with the base of the bag. So up until now, we've been increasing every round. We will no longer be increasing our bag. But the bag will be a little bit larger than this base. As we start to work up the sides, it will continue to work out a little bit, so it will be larger than this. But for round 9, we're now going to chain 1, and we're just going to half double crochet in each stitch around. So like I said before, in this round, we will not be increasing. We're just going to work 1 half double crochet all the way around to start working up the sides of our bag. So I'll go ahead and meet you at the end of this round. Okay, so once we're at the end of this round, just like the other rounds, we're going to slip stitch to the top of the first stitch to join. And then we're just actually going to repeat that round. So we're once again going to chain 1 and then put 1 half double crochet stitch in each stitch around. Again, there'll be no increases in this stitch. We're starting to work up the side of the bag. And so we're just going to put 1 half double crochet in each stitch around. Okay, so for round 11, we're going to switch things up a little bit. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to do a herringbone half double crochet in each stitch around. So for this stitch, you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into your stitch, and pull up a loop. You're then going to pull that first loop through the second one, and then yarn over and pull through all of the loops on your hook. And we're simply going to do that in each stitch all the way around. Now, if you're not super familiar with this stitch, or you'd like to see it being done a little bit more slowly, I do have a tutorial on the blog that has written instructions as well as photos and video for this stitch. In fact, I have tutorials on the blog for a lot of stitches in this pattern, and I'll be sure to link them all in the description below. So if you need any help with these stitches, make sure to check those out. For now, I'm simply going to herringbone half double crochet in each stitch around, and I'll meet you at the end of this round. Okay, once we get to the end of this round, we're going to do something a little differently for our join. So rather than doing a typical slip stitch to join where you would go in this way, we're going to do an invisible slip stitch to join. So to do that, you're going to remove your hook from your loop, insert your hook from the back side to the front side of your first stitch. You're going to put that loop back on your hook, and you can tighten it up a little bit with your working yarn. and then pull it through to the back. And so this just kind of creates a little bit of a neater seam in these rows. And so now for round 12, we're simply going to repeat that last round. So you're going to chain 1, you're going to herringbone half double crochet in each stitch around, and you're going to end again with that invisible slip stitch to join. Okay, so we've now completed that round and have 2 rounds of the herringbone half double crochet. So next we're going to start into that open, lacy portion of the bag. And we'll do this with a half double crochet decrease stitch and a chain 1. So we're first going to start with a chain 1 for our starting chain. Then we're going to do a half double crochet decrease. So yarn over, insert your hook into your stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over again, go into the next stitch, pull up another loop, yarn over, and pull through all of the loops on your hook. And then we're going to chain 1 afterwards. And we're just going to do that around. So do a decrease stitch, followed by a chain 1. Decrease stitch, followed by a chain 1. So I'll just keep doing that, and we'll meet you at the end of the round. So we're ending this round with a chain 1, and then this time we're just going to do a regular slip stitch into that first stitch to join. So in this round, we're not doing the invisible slip stitch like we did here. We're just doing a regular join. So now to start round 14, we're going to chain 2. Now I recommend making this second chain really loose because we're going to be working into it into the next round. And I also recommend taking a stitch marker and inserting it into the chain. It just helps us find it a lot more easily later. Now, the reason we're doing a chain 2 on this round is because this first chain counts as your starting chain, but this second chain counts as a stitch. So in this round, while we did the decrease stitch followed by a chain, in this round, we're going to do a chain followed by the decrease stitch. And that's what's going to help us offset those stitches. So this stitch here, or this chain rather, takes the place of working into the stitch. So we're not going to start our half double crochet decrease here. We're going to start it here instead. And so that's what creates kind of that offset. We want to make sure that we're going to be working over top the window rather than over top the stitch. And so then we're going to chain 1. And I didn't mention it in the last round, but since we're going to be working into the chain 1s in these rounds, it can help to make them a little bit looser. If you chain a little bit too tightly, it can be hard to work back into them. So make them a little bit looser if you can. And so for the rest of this pattern, basically all of our half double crochet decreases are always going to start on top of the decrease stitch from the round before. So you're always going to place your decrease stitch so that it kind of straddles over top of the window space. And you're always going to work into both the top of the stitch and the chain. You're not going to work into the window itself. So we're working into the stitches. And we're simply going to do that all the way around. So again, doing the decrease stitch and then a chain. And then a decrease stitch and then a chain. So just make sure that your stitches are always offset, and then I'll meet you back around at the end of this round. Okay, when we get to the last half double crochet decrease of this round, we're going to put the first leg on top of that last decrease stitch from the round before, and then we're going to put the second leg in that join stitch. So typically we don't work into the join, but for this round we will. So then you're going to yarn over and complete your decrease stitch. And at the end of this round, since we started with a chain, we're going to end with a decrease. So we do not chain one at the end of this round. But now you're just going to slip stitch into that chain with your stitch marker, so the top of that chain two, to close the round. And so now to start round 15, we're essentially going to repeat this round here. So you're going to chain one, and we're going to start with the half double crochet decrease stitch. So you're going to go right back into that first stitch and then into the next stitch and then chain one. So again, we're offsetting the stitches. It's going to straddle over top of those windows. So again, we're going to do a decrease stitch followed by a chain one. Half double crochet decrease followed by a chain one. And we're just going to repeat that all the way around. Again, make sure that you are working into the stitches instead of the spaces, and make sure that you are working your decreases over top of the windows rather than over top the stitch, and you'll be good to go. So I'll meet you at the end of this round. Okay, so for this round, we do end with the chain one, and then we slip stitch to the top of the first stitch to join. And that's round 15. Now to do round 16, we're simply going to repeat this round. So this is where we're going to do the chain two. Make sure your second chain is loose and add that stitch marker. That chain takes the place of this first stitch. So we're going to start our decrease stitch here. So now you're going to do the half double crochet decrease and a chain one. And we're simply going to do that all the way around. So to complete this round, we're going to do the exact same thing that we did in round 14, where we end with the half double crochet decrease at the top of the last stitch, as well as in that join space. And now here, we're not going to end with a chain one, because the top of that chain two takes the place of our first stitch. So here we're ending with the half double crochet decrease. And then we're simply going to slip stitch to the top of that chain two, so the stitch with our stitch marker, to complete the round. And so now you should have 4 rounds of this half double crochet decrease chain one combination. And so now for rounds 17 through 28, we're simply going to repeat this block 2 more times. So rounds 11 through 16, you're going to complete 2 rounds of the herringbone half double crochet with that invisible slip stitch to join, and then 4 rounds of the half double crochet decrease and chain one combination. And you're going to do that 2 more times. And I'll go ahead and make sure to timestamp that in the description as well, so that if you want to follow along again for this combination while you are finishing the next 2 blocks, you'll be able to easily do so. But now I'm just going to chain one, make my herringbone half double crochets. And in these, you do want to make sure that you're working again in the chains, not the chain spaces. And I will meet you at the end of these 2 blocks to finish the top of the bag. Okay, so welcome back. So now you should have 3 of the repeats of the 2 rounds of herringbone half double crochet and the 4 rounds of the half double crochet decrease chain one combination. So now we just have a few more rounds to finish the top of the bag before we work on the strap. And so for the next 2 rounds, we are going to repeat this herringbone half double crochet rounds again. So again, you're going to herringbone half double crochet in each stitch around and end the round with the invisible slip stitch to join. And we're going to do that twice. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll meet you back here after those rounds. Okay, so now that those 2 rounds of the herringbone half double crochet are complete, our next round, we're going to chain 1. We're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches. And then we're going to do a single crochet decrease stitch. So I like to add decreases into the top of the bag because I find that for crochet bags, if they work just straight up, they get a little floppy at the top and they just don't have the structure that I like. So by adding in these decreases, we're going to bring in the top of the bag just a tad, not a lot, just a little bit to help add some additional stability to the top of the bag. And so we are just going to complete this around. So 3 single crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and then a single crochet decrease. And we're going to do that all the way around. Okay, so at the end of this round, we are going to do a regular slip stitch to join to the top of that first stitch. And you can see the bag came in just a hair, not a lot, but just enough to add some additional stability when we add the last 2 rounds. So these last 2 rounds are going to be the same. You're going to chain 1, and then you're just going to single crochet in each stitch around. And so we're going to do that for 2 rounds, this round plus 1 more. And when you get to the end of this round, you're going to, again, just do a regular slip stitch to join, not one of the invisible slip stitches. We only do those on the herringbone half double crochet rounds. So I'm just going to single crochet all the way around and then do that for 1 more round. And then we'll be set to start the strap of the bag. So I will meet you back here for that. Okay, so now that we're at the end of that second single crochet round, we are going to slip stitch to the top of the first stitch to join. And then from here, we're ready to start our straps. We're going to work the bag strap directly onto the edge of the bag. And to start this, we're going to chain 1, and then you're going to single crochet into the back loop only of the first 4 stitches. So this bag strap uses the thermal stitch, which is essentially a single crochet stitch, but just with a different stitch placement. And so it requires this setup row with these open loops on the front. And you'll see why when we make the next row. So for now, single crochet into the back loop of 4 stitches. Now, if you would like a wider strap, you can absolutely modify that here by simply just making more stitches into the back loop of more rows. This strap is highly customizable, as you'll see, and so this is what I like, but feel free to modify this if you would like a different width to your strap. So we're going to chain 1, and you're going to turn your work. Now we start the thermal stitch. So for the thermal stitch, you're going to insert your hook into the back loop of your working row, but you're also going to insert your hook into that open loop that's now available in the row below. And then you're just going to make a single crochet stitch. And that's the thermal stitch. So again, insert your hook into the back loop of your working row. Also insert it into the loop in the row below, and single crochet. You're going to do that all the way across. And so when you get to the end, you're going to chain 1, you're going to turn, and you're simply going to repeat that row. So into the back loop as well as that open loop in the row below, and single crochet, and keep doing that across. And you'll notice the more rows that you have, the easier it is to kind of find that open loop in the row below. They tend to kind of crunch down and become right next to one another, especially for this last stitch. You can see it kind of crunches down, but that loop is literally right behind your back loop. And so then you do the single crochet. And so you're just going to keep repeating that row over and over until you get the strap length that you're looking for. So I recommend at least a minimum of 20 inches for a shoulder bag. I find that about 20 to 25 inches tends to work for many people, but by all means, feel free to modify this to make it as long or as short as you like. For a crossbody bag, it will depend on your body size and where you want the bag to hit at your hip as to how long of a length you might need. So I recommend starting at about 20 inches for a shoulder bag, maybe about 30 inches for a crossbody, and then just keep working until you get the length that you're looking for. So just try it on as you go and adjust as needed. And so I'm going to go ahead and make my strap, and then I will meet you back here at the end to show you how to finish the bag. So now we have our bag with our completed strap. I made mine about 25 inches for this one. But we're going to make one more row on the strap because with the thermal stitch, we have these leftover open loops on the back side of the work. And so we're going to do a row that actually picks those up as well to make a cleaner edge. So you're going to chain one and turn your strap. And now this time you're going to work under both of the top loops as well as that loop below. So we're picking up all of those loops and we're not leaving any of them open in this row. So under both of the top loops, oops, as well as that open loop and single crochet. You're going to do that all the way across. And now we just have a bit of a cleaner edge with no loops being left over. So now we're ready to attach the strap to the edge of the bag. So I'm going to go ahead and put this down for a minute. And we're going to go down to the base of the strap. And so starting in this first stitch past the strap, you're going to count 28 stitches. And you're going to put a stitch marker in that stitch. And so I've already done that here. You're then going to count 3 stitches past that and insert another stitch marker. And so these 4 stitches are where the strap is going to be connected. So it kind of creates little guideposts for us, so we don't have to count the stitches out and then try to make sure we're working in the right place. So you're then going to take your strap and making sure it hasn't been twisted, you're going to bring it so that the right side of the strap meets the right side of the bag. So you're going to take your strap and flip it so that the right side of the strap and the right side of the bag are facing each other. Now, you'll notice my loop is on this side. If your loop is on this side, you're absolutely fine. It just means you had a different number of rows. Depending on how many, whether you have an even or odd number of rows, will determine which end you land on. If that's the case and your loop and your hook are on this side, you're simply going to work this way. And if your loop and hook are on this side, you're going to work this way. So either way it works. You're going to do the same thing. But we're going to line up those stitches with the stitch markers. And then put your loop back on your hook. And now we're just going to slip stitch across. So you're going to insert under both of the loops on your strap. And you're going to go into that first stitch markered stitch. And then you're just going to slip stitch through. And insert into the next stitch on both the strap and the bag and slip stitch through. And you're just going to keep doing that. Both of the loops on the bag, both of the loops on the strap, slip stitch through, and then one more time. You're going to slip stitch through. Now, if you prefer to cut your yarn and do a whip stitch there, you absolutely can do that as well. But I just like doing a slip stitch across and not having to worry about sewing. And so from here, you can go ahead and take your stitch markers out. And then if you're crafty, you can move your yarn and your hook to the side, because we're now going to work along the edge of the bag and the strap to do some extra reinforcement. So it may take a little finagling to get your yarn and your hook in the right place. But if you do this, you're now ready to work along the edge of your bag. And so to do this reinforcement, we're simply going to put a single crochet in each stitch along the top of the bag, and then we're going to put a single crochet along the edge of the strap. So to start, you're just going to start with a single crochet. You're going to go all the way around the top of the bag. Okay, so once you've worked around the top edge of your bag and you're now at the edge of the strap, you're going to turn your work and we're going to make single crochets along the edge of the strap. Now, I will forewarn you, this is a little bit more of an art than a science. I'll show you where I put my stitches, but know that if your stitches are gapping or pulling, that means that you want to put your stitches more closely together. On the flip side, if they seem to be kind of rippling or creating a wavy edge to your strap, you're going to want to put stitches further apart. So it's really all about the aesthetics here and just figuring out what looks best. And that might take a little trial and error. But for me, I usually recommend stitches, one stitch every 1 to 2 rows. If you look here, you can see the little hash marks that form from the back of the single crochet stitches. I shoot to put my stitch at the top of those rows. Because the thermal stitch is really thick, it can be hard sometimes to insert your hook through both of those rows, and I find that there tends to be a pretty easy place to put the hook. So again, here's that first set of hashes, and that's where I'm going to insert my hook and make a single crochet. Here's the next one, and make a single crochet. And so I do make my single crochets here a little more loosely. It helps just create a nice edge, but again, it depends on how you crochet. And you may find that you need your stitches more close together or more further apart than I do. It really just depends on how tight your strap stitches were and how you crochet overall. So we're just going to repeat that, and you can see it makes this nice clean edge along the end. We're just going to repeat that all the way along the edge of the strap, and I'll show you what to do when we get back to the other end. All right, and once you've gotten all the way along the edge of your strap, you're then just going to slip stitch back down to that first stitch to join your round, and then you're going to fasten off. Just going to cut your yarn, pull it through, tighten it down. And so now that we've done the one side of the bag, you're then going to flip over and you're going to do the exact same thing to the other side of the bag. So here I'm going to reattach my yarn, make a slip knot there, reattach my yarn here into this first stitch, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing that we just did. So single crochet all the way across the top of your bag until you get to the other strap, and then you're going to single crochet along the edge of the strap again, and I will meet you back here when we're done with that. And once we get back down to this end, we're going to do the same thing that we did on the other end. We're going to slip stitch to the top of that first stitch to join, and then fasten off your work. And then from here, you're simply going to weave in your ends, and then your bag is finished. So I hope you've enjoyed making this bag. This pattern is one of my favorites to make for sure. I use my bag all the time, so I hope you will end up using yours as well. If you've liked this tutorial, I hope that you will subscribe and hit that notification button so that you're always notified of new stitch tutorials and pattern tutorials here on YouTube. Happy stitching!